The collective had made their first mistake in 3,000 years of galactic dominance. They had underestimated a species that had barely left its own solar system. Commander Marcus Chen stood before the Council of United Earth, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. The holographic display behind him showed the last transmission from the colony ship New Horizon, his sister's face frozen in terror, before the signal cut to static. 20,000 souls, including Dr. Sarah Chen, had been harvesting ice from Europa's moon when the Velkari warships appeared. They took them as specimens, Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. The Velkari consider us curiosities, lab animals for their research into primitive emotional responses. The council chamber erupted in angry murmurs. Humanity had spent 50 years building toward first contact, dreaming of diplomatic handshakes and cultural exchanges. Instead, their greeting had come in the form of tractor beams and neural suppressors. Ambassador Liu raised her hand for silence. Commander Chen, the Velkari Empire spans 400 star systems. We have 3 barely functional warp ships and weapons designed for asteroid mining. This isn't a war we can win. Marcus turned to face her, and something in his eyes made even the seasoned diplomat lean back. With respect, Ambassador, they didn't take your little sister. They didn't steal someone who spent her childhood teaching you constellations, who chose to explore the cosmos because she believed we'd find friends out there. His voice cracked, then hardened into steel. And they certainly didn't teach you that humans are most dangerous when they have nothing left to lose. 3 weeks later, the first human warship, hastily retrofitted from a colony transport, jumped into Velkari space. The Retribution carried no diplomatic envoys. Its cargo holds contained mining explosives, railgun platforms, and 300 volunteers who'd said goodbye to their families knowing they'd never return. The Velkari observed the primitive vessel with amusement. Their sensors detected crude chemical propulsion, basic energy shields, and weapons that seemed laughably antiquated. The Empire's Fourth Fleet moved to intercept, expecting to add another specimen ship to their collection. They didn't understand human warfare. They'd never faced a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing its own kind. The Retribution didn't slow as it approached the Velkari formation. Instead, it accelerated. When the aliens opened fire, the human ship took the hits on reinforced bow plating, armor stripped from Earth's decommissioned nuclear bunkers. The Velkari had never encountered a species willing to sustain catastrophic damage to close distance. At point-blank range, the Retribution unleashed hell. Railgun slugs, simple metal rods accelerated to relativistic speeds, punched through Velkari shields like they weren't there. The aliens had optimized their defenses against energy weapons, never imagining anyone would use kinetic projectiles in space combat. It was primitive, inefficient, absolutely devastating. 3 Velkari cruisers disintegrated before they understood what was happening. The Retribution, her hull breached in a dozen places, rammed the flagship. In the final seconds, Commander Chen's voice carried across all frequencies. This is humanity's answer. Come for us and we'll turn your ships into coffins. The mining explosives detonated. The Velkari High Command gathered in their obsidian tower, watching replays of the Battle of Proxima Gate. They'd lost an entire fleet to a single primitive vessel. Unthinkable, impossible. Yet the debris field didn't lie. They're insane, the military overseer hissed, his translator struggling with the concept. They sacrificed their ship, their crew, everything for what? They gained nothing. They sent a message, the intelligence director said quietly. She'd been studying human history, their wars, their literature, their endless cycles of violence and vengeance. We took something precious from them. Now they're showing us the cost. 1 ship. We have thousands. Look deeper. The director pulled up data streams from across human space. In 3 weeks, they've militarized their entire species. Every factory, every shipyard, every civilian with technical skills has volunteered for their war effort. They're stripping metals from their own cities to build weapons. They're not fighting to win territory or resources. Then what? They're fighting because we hurt them, because we made it personal. She gestured at Earth's communications intercepts, millions of messages all saying the same thing in different ways. Bring them home. Make them pay. Never again. We studied them as specimens, as if their emotions were simple chemical reactions. We didn't realize those reactions could become unstoppable force. The overseer chittered dismissively. Emotion makes them weak. We'll crush. The alarms cut him off. Reports flooded in, human ships appearing across the border, dozens of them. Not military vessels. They were cargo haulers, mining ships, even luxury yachts, all armed with whatever weapons humans could bolt onto their hulls. They attacked in swarms, sustaining horrific losses but always closing to suicide range. The Velkari couldn't adapt fast enough. Their doctrine had no answer for an enemy that didn't fear death. Within 6 months, the border worlds went dark. Velkari colonies that had stood for centuries fell to human boarding parties, soldiers who'd learned to fight in zero gravity by studying their own brutal history. Every captured facility yielded intelligence, which led to more raids, more rescued prisoners. The Council of United Earth received hourly updates. The Valiant destroyed 3 science stations. The Nomad recovered 2,000 human prisoners. The Sarah's Light, named for Marcus Chen's sister, had broken the blockade around Velkar Prime itself. And then, after 8 months of relentless assault, humanity's raiding fleet suddenly pulled back. The Velkari braced for another attack, but instead received a transmission. Marcus Chen appeared on their screens, older now, scarred, but with his sister standing beside him. Thin, traumatized, but alive. Behind them, thousands of rescued humans crowded the hangar bays. "We didn't start this war," Marcus said, "but we're ending it on our terms. You took 20,000 of our people thinking we were too primitive to respond. We've now extracted every single human from your space and destroyed 40% of your military capability doing it. We have your star charts, your technology, your strategic plans. We could press on and burn your empire to ash." He paused, letting that sink in. "But we won't. Because unlike you, we understand that every soldier on your ships has someone waiting for them to come home. We're not monsters. We're just extremely motivated." The transmission ended with coordinates for a neutral meeting zone. 3 days later, the Velkari Empire signed humanity's terms: full reparations, non-aggression pacts, and a pledge to share their medical technology to treat the psychological trauma inflicted on human prisoners. They agreed to everything, because the alternative was extinction at the hands of a species that had turned grief into warcraft. The galaxy learned a lesson that day. Humans were indeed primitive in many ways. Their ships were slower, their weapons cruder, their understanding of physics centuries behind the great empires. But they possessed something the advanced species had evolved past, something that made them terrifyingly effective when provoked. They loved their families more than they feared death itself. And there was no tactical computer in the galaxy that could calculate the force of that equation. Word count 1243.